So thank you everyone for coming here tonight. I'm Pam. Today we are very honored to have Steven Bandrowczak here. He is a very accomplished business leader and also a very amazing human being. Right now, he is the Chief Operations Officer at Xerox and also the President at Xerox. Xerox, many of you know it. It's a legendary global American corporation, have a history over 100 years. Before working at Xerox, Steven also worked at several multi-billion US dollar companies, which include DHL, HP, and Lenovo. He actually worked in China for 5 years from 2011 to 2016. So he also not only have experience in the US, but also have experience in China. And I also know Steve just came back from Japan and also worked a lot of projects in India before. So he really has a vision and experience in this international context, in the business context, and also in this type of professional cooperative settings. Right now, he also teaches at Columbia University for the EMBA program. He teaches the executives there for how they can dispute the traditional market by technology innovations. So we are very honored and to have Steve here. Thank you very much, Steve, for coming here to provide our coaches and students a very valuable session. Thank you very much.
My honor, Pam. Happy to be with you tonight.
Okay. So Steve, beyond what I just introduced about you, is there anything you want everyone to know about you before we really start the session?
Sure, Pam. I have had a incredibly blessed history. My childhood, for those of you who know the New York area, we grew up in a very, very poor neighborhood on Long Island. My wife and I are married 40 years.
Yes.
We started off as childhood sweethearts.
Yes.
And very, very early in my career, literally at 16 years old, my dad kicked me out of my house. And I say that not in a bad way. I say that it's part of who it made me, made my career so successful. Because at a very early age, with nothing other than literally going to school and working 60, 70 hours a week, I had to find a way to be able to survive. And those lessons going at school, it took me 8 years to get a 4-year degree, going to school at night while working full time. But those lessons gave me an appreciation for what I do today, an appreciation for the blessings that we have today. So I certainly am more than happy to share that experience with the team. At 27 years old, I got my first CIO role at a company called Avnet, and I've had an executive role at a C-suite for over 30 years now. And I've been with some of the largest corporations. You talked about some of them. I was the global CIO for DHL. I was the CIO at HP, and I ran their shared services. Just over 60,000 employees reported to me in 160 countries. I had an incredible time in spinning out the IBM PC division and building what is Lenovo today. That company started as a $4 billion Chinese company. And today sits at a $51 billion global company. And I learned an awful lot about working not just in China, which I had done many years, but working for a Chinese national company and training and leading execs to how do you work out of China and be a global leader in the global world that we're in today. So more than happy to share that experience with the team on the call this evening.
Thank you so much, Steve. Yes, and since Steve have brought that up, I really also want to send our appreciation and our acknowledgement to Steven's wife, Donna, who is a great friend of mine. Actually, that's how I knew Steven is through Donna. And I was so inspired after I heard Donna shared all these stories from your early 20s and 30s, how you came from a background which have no privilege, but you have that inner strength and you have your vision of your life, build that step by step and finally achieve, like grow yourself to be such a powerful global business leader. That is so inspiring. And thank you very much for being willing to share that, Steve.
My honor.
Before I start to ask all these popular questions for Steve, I want everyone here, just since we are a small group of people, I want to have more interactions. So each of you maybe spend 20 seconds, 34 sentences to introduce you. What's your name? Where are you right now? What is your background? And what you are up to right now? Okay, so Leon, maybe you'll go first.
Sure. So my name is Leon, and I'm from Taiwan, actually. I went to the States for grad school study, and then after that, I went to Apple for 4 years and then joined another company.
I'm from mainland China, and I went to US for PhD at Cornell, and then I go to UMass Medical School for postdoc. Now I'm an associate professor at Rochester Medical School.
I graduated from NYU with a master's degree in mathematics, and now I'm working in Bank of America.
So the structure of this meeting tonight, first I will ask Steve questions based on the questions I collected from everyone. And then I'm going to open this session for Q&A. At that time, if you have questions for Steve, no matter it's about leadership, how to be more effective as a leader for your team, or you start your own startup, what is the difference between the business environment between China and the US? And also we are going to, I know many ladies in our group want to talk about how we can empower ourselves as a woman in this professional world. And also one more point, Steve, he also came from a background, actually engineering background. Is that correct, Steve?
That is correct. I got my degree in computer science and have an engineering degree. So my background is also in engineering, like many of you on the call.
Yes, exactly. So I know like probably more than 19% of the people here actually have engineering academic background, but you also want to become a leader and or start your own startups. So Steve, tonight is a great resource for us to update our mindset, skills, and vision of our life. So really take advantage of this session. So Steve, first, because you have worked in so many different countries, right? And one most popular question I get from my students and my coachees again is, although in the end of the day, human beings are human beings and we are similar on the heart level, but culture difference still plays a role in our mind that will shape our belief system, the way we think, and the role we play. So from your perspective, have been working in both the US and China, what do you think is the biggest difference between Chinese and American in the business world, especially if someone works in this cooperative setting? What is the biggest difference you see that?
Yeah, so I think when I worked in China, specifically with Lenovo,
Yes.
I had about 300 engineers that were in Beijing for Lenovo that had never left China. In IBM, there was a group of people that I inherited in Shenzhen, another 200 Chinese employees, but they had and worked in IBM and had a global culture. Mm-hmm. And two different teams, both now working for the same company. One was in Beijing, domestic, had never left China, and another group that was in Shenzhen that was trained, had been in a global company, and had been a part of an American culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple of fundamental differences. One, and I think China is changing a little bit, and it really is around the empowerment of people to make decisions and make rapid decisions, not wait for somebody to tell them what to do or how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What I found with the Beijing domestic Lenovo employees, incredibly smart, incredibly talented, incredible engineering and science, but they didn't have the art piece. In other words, the imagination, the creativity, the innovation.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very scientific in terms of if you tell them a solution, they will make it happen. But to have that creativity to be able to figure out that solution, it was lacking a little bit.
Oh.
In the Shenzhen team from IBM, they had that empowerment. They had been exposed to it is okay to be creative. It is okay to be innovative. And so my first observation about the two cultures very early was that the Chinese team in general was incredibly bright and talented on the engineering side,
Mm-hmm.
and needed to be more experienced on a global basis and more experienced on the creativity side.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call it the art. And by the way, in many of our new breakthrough companies, our new startup companies, the technology is very similar in many companies. So you take a look at Uber. When Uber first came out, Uber is not a great technology company. Uber took technology that already existed and created a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
And in each and every one of your personal lives today, if you take a look at your mobile phone, it now has become what I call hyper-personalized, meaning that your mobile phone is designed for you, how you want to get on planes, how you want to interact with banking, how you want to travel, how you want to communicate. It has become your own personal productivity device. That creativity, that ability to be able to create those applications is what is driving and changing and differentiating. I think China is getting more creative. Obviously, the Alibabas and a lot of the companies that have come up over the last 5 to 10 years, but still in the culture of China, it still is a very, very hierarchical culture.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're waiting for somebody to lead. And in the American culture, and not just the American culture, other Western cultures, the empowerment and the innovation and the creativity is a little bit more pervasive. The risk-taking, it is okay to take more risk. And so that's probably the two biggest differences that I see within the two environments.
Okay, so for people who were grown up in that type of Chinese environment, no matter they come to work in bigger corporations in the US as employees, or they want to start their own startups, what are the ways they can empower themselves to be more creative and to also have the power? I don't know, sometimes you also need to protect the downside at the same time, take the risk. So how they can empower themselves to do that?
So the beauty about where we are today in the world in general is today is the slowest technology will ever be. Think about that for a second. Today is the slowest technology will ever be. Stated another way, is the world is changing faster and faster every day. Every day.
Mm-hmm.
With that change creates tremendous opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And what I encourage everybody on the call to do is, how do you find those opportunities to create new and unique innovation? And it's not the next Tesla car. There's lots of different ways to innovate. There's lots of different ways to be creative. In the world in which we're in today, each of you and your interaction with technology, the companies, the individuals, the startup companies that are successful are those companies that can leverage innovation to create new value, to create new solutions. And so whether you're in a startup or whether you are in a mature company, whether it be Microsoft, Apple, everybody is looking for how to create those new user experiences, how to create that new differentiating. Amazon is a great example of it. Today at Amazon, if you think about when you order something in Manhattan, you get it in 2 hours. They're changing the expectation of what delivery means, the way in which you return product, the way in which you purchase product, the logistics around getting product to you as an individual is all changing and setting expectations of the experience. You think about how you interact with your movie of choice, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Zulu, the way we take and we look at content now is dramatically different than traditional media distribution. The way we board planes, the way we do banking transactions, all of those are new innovative ideas and new use cases that's creating tremendous value. And so whether you're in a startup or whether you're in a mature company or whether you're in universities, the reality is tomorrow's leaders take incredibly complex things and make it simple. Take complex things and make it really simple. If you think about Uber today, that experience looks really simple, but the technology and the ability to be able to synchronize all of that is tremendously complex. And so tomorrow's leaders really take complex things, not just with technology, but with complexity of user experience, complexity of process, make it simple and create new value propositions. And I think that's what a startup is going to do. I think that's what new future leaders inside of mature companies need to do. They have to find new and innovative ways to create value inside of either a company or inside of an industry.
Thank you so much. That's so great. And also for people's brain, like you just mentioned, Chinese, they're good at technologies. If you give them a task, they can really accomplish it. And for them, if they want to develop the muscle, start to develop the muscle to be more able to see those opportunities, to be more able to envision like great visions. And what are the practical actions they can start to take to start to build this type of muscle, and which will gradually lead them to where you just mentioned?
So the first recommendation is don't be afraid to fail. Steve Jobs, God bless him, failed many times. Many times. Bill Gates failed many times. Many of your current leaders today who you think are big innovators were not afraid to fail, and in fact failed multiple times. And so the first advice is do not be afraid to fail. Fail fast, and get up and try the next thing, okay? Second, today, every day, you interact with new technology, new ways of doing things, new ways of doing business in a variety of different industries, in a variety of different experiences. You already have the imagination. How many times have you said to yourself, I thought of that and somebody else did it? I thought of that, somebody else did it. And so we all have the capacity to be able to be creative, the capacity to be able to create new and innovative things. Two things hold us back. First, fear.
Mm-hmm.
We fear being wrong. We fear not being perfect, especially as an engineer. As an engineer, you want to be perfect, because if you make a mistake on an aircraft or you make a mistake on a medical device, you cost people lives. And so we're trained to be perfect. Engineering, we're trained to be not to be a millimeter off on our measurements. The reality is that thinking stops creativity. That thinking stops innovation. So you have to be a little bit being able to take some risk, understanding that failing is okay. Don't be fearful of failing. Embrace failing. Embrace that you're going to fail. It's okay. Learn from the mistakes and move on. Second, practice. Practice, practice, practice. You can practice being innovative. How do you do that? You got a great group here, a great group of people. Did you ever go into an ideation sense, into a group of just ideas?
Mm-hmm.
Ideation. Think about a problem and then get creative on how you can solve it. Our professor, I promise you, they never have all the answers when they start their scientific research. They have a concept and they go and find their path to that research. And so great leaders have a vision of making something very simple and then working really hard to figure it out on how to get it accomplished, okay? The biggest thing that holds most people back is the fear of failing or the fear of not being perfect, and especially engineers.
I can envision that it's easier actually for people who want their own startup. They can just try that. It's easier. I know some of people here work for mature companies, and how they can still find that space to do this type of work in a mature structure.
Yeah, you can. I mean, look, the startups, the reason why startups find creativity and find solutions is because if they don't, they go out of business. They have to find a way to be successful. They have no way to pay bills. They have no way to support their employees. And so what you find in startups is because of the sense of you have to do it, you have no choice, you find very creative environment. In a mature company, I see we got Microsoft, Apple, previous Apple employees. You make a mistake, you're going to get your paycheck. You're going to get your paycheck. In a startup, there is no paycheck if you fail. You go out of business, okay? And so you tend to have a different type of environment. It does not mean, by the way, within a Microsoft or within an Apple, or within a Xerox, you don't have creativity, you don't have innovation. You do, but it's a little safer from the perspective of when somebody fails with an idea inside of Microsoft or Apple or Xerox, the business still goes on. And we have a safe environment for people to fail, right? But the same concept, the same type of thinking, the same being brave about bringing those ideas out is within a startup or within a mature company.
So you mean that they have to, for people who work in the mature companies, they can create that type of drive for themselves, and that drive of like it sounds like I must be creative, I must find the solution, must have a bigger vision. They can create that internal drive to drive them to do something. Is that correct?
They can. What I find is, especially early career employees who are fairly young, tend not to be more vocal, tend not to be more brave. They tend to be a little bit introverted, and they don't say things. And so if you don't speak up and you don't talk about your ability to be able to put an idea on the table, nobody will know it. And that's what holds a lot of people back.
That's such a great suggestion. So I want to ask Steve a question that I actually ask many senior business leader, which because I really want people who are in junior position know this. So from your perspective, do you really like young people come to you said, okay, I have this idea and I have this vision and I have this creativity, and do you really like young people come to you and talk to you?
Yeah, I do. Many years ago, I started a reverse mentoring program. So I today have 2 early career employees that mentor me.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And the reason why I started that program was that you and early career employees have a sense of urgency, have a sense of what good looks like. Go back to your personal world, go back to your interaction with your smart device, and you think about the experience you have with an application. So take Netflix or take Amazon or take Alibaba, whatever the experience is. You have an expectation of what ease of use looks like, what good looks like. Then you go into a company and think about, for those of you, I heard Microsoft or at Apple or even at Xerox, when I want to go find how to fix a Xerox product, the best way to do it is to go on YouTube, not look at Xerox manuals, okay? And we see it in many companies today, all right? So technology and the expectation of what a good user experience looks like, early career employees bring that to the job every day. My job as a leader is to, how do I get that information? How do I get that sense of urgency out of them? For the young lady who was at Microsoft or somebody who was at Microsoft,
yes.
And I know Microsoft well, think about how you find information. You go outside and you Google it, and it's silly. You go to the Microsoft campus, which I've been in many times, and try to find somebody where they're sitting or try to find their desk. It is almost impossible, very difficult. It's a big campus. But yet when I want to find Starbucks, I put Starbucks in Google Map and it takes me right there. And so for some reason, we're seeing these 2 worlds collide. We're seeing the consumer world and the enterprise world coming together. And that's where early career employees can bring that sense of experience, that sense of urgency, that sense of ease of how things should be done. Bringing it into a mature company is very, very important. Very important.
Yes. Thank you for being able to say that, because another fear actually hold people back is sometimes people shy away from talk to people they think are much more senior than them.
Yeah.
And so they don't talk about it. Either, no matter it's your startup, you want to go outside to find your client, to find your investors, or you work in your company and you want to talk to your the senior leaders in your company. So Steve, just provide your perspective, you or his perspective, actually how that is welcome. And
well, very welcome. Most companies, and I've been in a lot of global companies, and I've got many of my peers at other companies. Companies, environments, competitive landscapes, these jobs are not easy. They are very difficult. The challenges we deal with every day, the challenges that come at us from every walk of life, is very difficult. And so if I think that I know everything, then I'm probably going out of business and I'm going to be extinct. What I say to my team and what I say to anybody around me is leadership is a constant learning every day. If you think about, and I don't know how many people are musicians on this call or how many are athletes on this call. I've run a couple of marathons. You don't just put on sneakers and go run 26 miles. You don't just go pick up a instrument, saxophone, and play it well. you practice every day. And if you want to be a good leader, you practice every day. You learn every day. And I always get asked the question, well, how do you learn leadership? Every day you do something to make yourself a better leader. To this day, I still do. I get up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, every day. Every day. And I work on something. I either read, I listen to other leaders, I work on skills. For those of you who know what Myers-Briggs is, Myers-Briggs is a test that will tell you whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I am off the chart introvert.
Wow.
Introvert. My natural tendency is not to speak to people, not to be in public. And yet I have presented to groups in Vegas of 50,000 people. It's not my natural tendency, but I have to work to overcome it. And I work very hard on it. And so leadership is incredibly important, but you got to work on it every day. Many people ask me, well, Steve, how do I get to the C level? How do I get to be an executive of a company? And it's like anything else. You work at it. You work at it, okay? You create a career path. You work on the skills you don't have. You work on the experience you don't have. You take risk, and you work at it. The one thing I will tell you that you will never become a great leader if you don't work at it. You'll never get to a C-level executive unless you work at it. And, so I always encourage my people, my students, my teams that work for me, you have to constantly work at being a leader. And it means they're working on those skills. Some of you are very good at presenting. Work on your presentation skills. Some of you are good at oral. Some of you are good at writing. Some of you are not good at communicating at all. You got to work on it. And you talk about the global nature. Communicating with employees in China is very different than communicating with employees in Germany or communicating with employees in Israel or whatever the country is. And so you got to constantly work on those skills so that you can be a global leader. The dynamics of generational gaps is changing dramatically. And the ability to be sensitive to global issues that are important to employees, having a purpose, having an understanding for why employees are sensitive to certain issues and certain topics of the day is very important. And so you don't do that without working on it.
Thank you very much for bringing that up, because actually that's what I'm going to ask exactly is, from an engineering background, many people are good at dealing with, computers, coding, and technologies. But when you want to become a leader, no matter inside a company or you want to start your own startup, there's aspects to deal with different type of people.
Yeah.
People from different culture, people have different personalities, people think in different ways. So what is the thing that they can do? Actually, one thing you can do is join our communication online class, which is some of you are already in our communication online class. And also what people can do to constantly build this muscle of being able to work with more and more people and being able to be more and more effective as a leader through working with people.
Yeah. So as engineers, we tend to be isolated. We like to code, or we like to be very isolated as engineers. That isolation doesn't give you the experience, doesn't give you the culture, doesn't give you, if you think about algorithms today, and you think about AI technology today, or you pick your technology of choice when it relates to code, you have to know how that code affects people. You've got to know how AI affects people. You got to know how algorithms affects people. And so getting away from that code, getting away from the engineering day-to-day hands-on, and understanding what the output is, what the user experience is, is incredibly important, especially if you want to be a leader, or especially if you want to be at the senior level of the company. Today, in most companies, if you are a senior leader, you're not talking about technology. You're not talking about AI. You're not talking about code. It is important that those technologies give you an output, but you're talking about business results. You're talking about how those technologies impact business. And so it's very important to have some degree of understanding business, understanding not deep a financial background, but understanding what a profit and loss statement is, understanding how companies make money, how companies make profit, why it's important to have cash, and how do you drive cash. So there are certain things that are very important, even as an engineer, to understand. For those who want to be entrepreneurs and who want to start up a company, the biggest ones that fail are not the ones that have technology and great ideas. The ones that fail don't understand the business and understand how to run a business. Okay? If you have a great idea and you don't know how to get cash to invest in your business, you don't know how to bring a product to market fast enough to generate revenue before you run out of cash, that is a business. You've got to understand the dynamics of that. And so understand the fundamentals of business, even if you're an engineer, is incredibly important because it makes your work much more interesting when you understand the outcome of that work. You take a look at the tragic, what's happening at Boeing today and the loss of lives. The engineers and the coding and the mistake that was done by somebody in a lab way, way, way down inside of Boeing who didn't even know, or she didn't even know, that the mistake that they made was going to cost a life. They were just writing code. That code and that failure of that code cost lives. They never thought about that. Okay. And so understanding your engineering technology, understand how it impacts people, understand how it impacts the users, the environment is incredibly important.
Okay, yeah. So what are some of the source they can learn that, where they can start from? Because I know some of the people here, they're thinking about going to an MBA program, but not everyone want to do that. So what is the source they can start from?
Look, I don't think you need an MBA program. It's a great path, and I don't say it's something that everybody should do. It's a great program, and I think the MBA courses and learning the basis of business is important, but it's not the only path. Okay, go on YouTube, and YouTube will tell you how to read a P&L, profit and loss statement. It'll tell you how to read a 10K, which is a quarterly statement for public companies. Go on and listen to CEOs at the end of a quarter, and they will start to give you insight about what executives are thinking about, why they're thinking about it. Read analyst reports. Pick a company and just read analyst reports. The analyst reports will tell you a lot about business. And so there's a lot of different ways to educate yourself on business and to educate yourself on ways of running business. For those of you who are in a mature company and you're an engineer, go ask somebody in the finance department. Tell me about a purchase profit and loss statement. Tell me about an income statement. Tell me about a balance sheet. People will be more than happy to share that with you. Okay. So again, it's a matter of just working on your own leadership skills. It's a matter of working on your own skills. Just think about if you spend 1 hour a day for 1 year, 365 hours, just immersing yourself in learning and understand the basics of business. Whether it's a P&L statement, whether it's a quarterly report, whether it's an annual report, cash flow. 1 year from now, you'll be very, very educated.
Wow. Okay. At the same time, sometimes people, they actually don't know what they need to learn. And if you want to name the top 3 skills they want to start to build as if they want to be successful as a business leader, what are the top 3 skills they got to start to build?
So first is the ability to lead. And leadership skills are really important.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about somebody within your company or somebody within your community, there are people that when you listen to them, you want to follow them. Mm-hmm. They just have the ability to attract. They have the ability to be able to make people listen. Mm-hmm. And typically it's because they have a teaching quality. They have a quality that when I listen to them or her, I'm a better off person because I listen. And so the ability to be able to lead is incredibly important. And engineers don't believe that they have anything to teach. And that's just not true, okay? You learn an awful lot through teaching. You learn an awful lot through mentoring. I don't know how many people on the call mentor, but I learned very early in my career, mentoring people is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Why? Because I can't mentor what I don't know. I can't mentor what I don't know. Mm-hmm. Think about if I'm mentoring somebody and they want me to teach them Hebrew. Mm-hmm. I can't teach Hebrew. I don't know Hebrew. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in order for you to mentor, you learn an awful lot about what you know, and you learn an awful lot about what you don't know. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I love mentoring as a gift to yourself. But being a leader and understand those attributes of the qualities of a leader and what you have and what you don't have, and then working on those things. If you're a good visionary, or you're a good communicator, or you're a good people who drive energy, you think about outside of work, you want to be with people that make you energized. You want to be with people that give you energy. You don't want to be with people that take you down and suck energy. Leaders drive energy. Go listen to TED Talks. Everybody on a TED Talk, most of them have the same type of quality. They're energetic. You want to listen to them for hours. They're interesting. They're exciting. You watch one and next thing you know, it's an hour later and you realize, I didn't realize I was even watching that for an hour, okay? Because you're interested and they drive and they're passionate and they're energizing. So first is working on your leadership skills. Second, your business and finance acumen. Understand what it means to drive sales. How do you market? How do you get cash in the door? How do you manage profit and loss statement? The fundamentals, not detailed. You don't have to have an MBA, but it's important. Try to sell something. Have you ever sold something? Go spend time with somebody to try to sell something, okay? Without revenue, you don't have a business. For those of you who are going to do a startup, the hardest thing is not the idea and the creativity of the product. The hardest thing is selling it and making money. How do you create a revenue stream? How do you get customers? How do you get prospects? How do you price your product? Okay. All of those are very important fundamentals to business 101 and understanding business. So the second piece is truly starting to understand different parts of the business community and the business world. Then the last piece is today, technology is going to drive and change every company, every process, everything that we do in the world will be impacted by technology. And so for those of you who want an exercise, write down 1986 and then go take a look at a company called Barnes & Noble in 1986.
How to spell that? Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble, bookstore, Barnes & Noble.
Oh, yeah, I know it. Okay. Yeah.
Take a look at their share price. Take a look at their revenue. Then go in 1986 and take a look at this company called Amazon. Revenue, share price. Then take a look at the number of internet users in 1986. Fast forward to today and see how many internet users there are worldwide. And take a look at the trajectory of Amazon, the trajectory of Barnes & Noble, and the trajectory and the slope of the internet users between 1986 and today. And what you'll find is one company embraced technology, one company completely missed it. Okay? Why do I share that with you today? Because there are 4 or 5 technologies that are going to make the next set of Barnes & Nobles versus Amazons. The Internet of Things, IoT, AI technology, analytics, pervasive computing. So there's a variety of technologies out there today that some companies will absolutely embrace and will ride the wave and will grow exponentially because they rode those technologies. There'll be some companies that will be the Barnes & Noble, completely in denial, stay with the old business model, the old paradigms, and get completely disrupted in a very short period of time. Very short period of time. Okay?
Okay.
So those would be the 3 things that I think are important in leadership today. Understand a little bit about technology, how it can help the process of the company or the startup you're with, understanding business, and then leadership in general. Those 3 things would be my recommendations.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve. I think I'm glad because we have actually a lot of, we have a very excellent scientists here, and we also have a lot of people who have a strong technology background. So the number 3, we can share in the community, continue to share with each other. And another 2, build up your leadership skills. We can do that through our communication class, and I will provide other things. And the finance one, that you can find other resource outside of this class to build that muscle. Thank you very much, Steve, for sharing that.